This is music, and this is going to get weird. Welcome to another First Impressions video. In these videos, I share with you my first impressions of the many blind bought CDs that I have picked up over the last couple of years. I've had a couple of long days in the office at work recently, but that just meant that I also had lots of time to listen to music while working. So I have this good stack of CDs to talk about. Let's just get down to business. Up first, 666 by Sacrilege, and these guys are not the more, I think, well-known, sometimes thrash, sometimes doom, female-fronted band. These guys, I believe, were an old new wave of British heavy metal band who either went on a long hiatus and then got reactivated, or maybe they just kept going all along. I actually don't know. But this here is old school doom metal, to the point that some of it is just traditional metal and some of it is hard rock, but it all kind of comes together, I would argue, in some kind of doom metal. It's not unlike early Black Sabbath and Count Raven. Actually, I think the guy from Count Raven even makes a guest appearance doing some vocals on one of the songs here. And the regular vocalist of this band also has kind of a Count Raven-y thing going on in his singing. It's I think this is very good stuff, very enjoyable. It rocks hard. It's mildly heavy, but never really slow. But slow enough that it's, to me at least, obviously some kind of doom metal. If you like Pentagram, early Sabbath, Bedemon, and Count Raven, I think you will enjoy this one. I certainly like it. It's not a masterpiece or anything, but it's very solid. It's very good. And it's great that, it got released on Pure Steel Records. One thing I like about Pure Steel Records is that they give a lot of artists a chance, okay? So they release a lot of stuff by bands that would otherwise perhaps not ever have official releases, and I think that's great because a lot of the stuff that is out on Pure Steel and all the sub labels is actually great. Some of it is not my cup of tea, but a lot of it I think is great, good, decent, and I'm glad that it gets out there, you know what I mean? So good job to Pure Steel. Speaking of Pure Steel, Skinflint, chief of the Ghosts, a heavy metal trio from Botswana in Africa. Traditional heavy metal with a considerable influence from Iron Maiden, and also maybe from more US traditional heavy metal. And you get that here. You get that on all their albums. It's a very consistent band in terms of their style. The musicianship gets better and better. You can hear that. On this one here, the production is actually quite tight. Normally, the production on the other Skinflint albums I have, it's a bit rough around the edges. Here, the production is a bit more tight. The performance is also a bit tighter, so maybe they had more time in the studio on this one. There's not a ding on the other Skinflint albums I have, because I really enjoy those too. And this one is just, in addition to that inventory of very good and very enjoyable heavy metal albums by Skinflint. Check it out if you like just traditional heavy metal. The vocals are not clean singing, they're more shouty, but it works well with what they have going on musically. Up next, some thrash metal, Insanity Addicts by Slammer, also Nightmare Scenario by Slammer, and I guess their classic Idle Hands, a work of Idle Hands. This particular one is out on Dive Bomb Records, and the hype sticker says classic UK thrash metal for fans of Metallica, Centrix, Testament, and Damn. And I kind of get that kind of comparison in terms of eccentrics comparisons. These guys have some pretty cool mid-paced things going on with some awesome riffage that does remind me a bit of Kin by Eccentrics, and that's actually an album that I quite like. There are actually some mid-paced things that also remind me a bit of Exodus, so that's probably why that name came to mind. There's some cool up-tempo parts as well. So it is kind of in that vein, like the maybe Bay Area kind of thrash vein. So I get the comparison to Metallica and Testament as well. Very good stuff. The guitar tone on all of these is just metallic. It's very tight. It's like somebody beating you in the face with a lead pipe, and that's great. Very good stuff. Very consistent in terms of the style as well on these 3 releases here. Awesome riffage, both the up-tempo part and the mid-tempo stuff. Great guitar tone, great performance. If you like your thrash metal and you like your sort of classic thrash metal, check Slammer out. They are well worth a listen, or 554. Okay, now a whole bunch of CDs by the same artist, and it's an artist who kind of like Slammer. I think Slammer deserve more attention than they get. This artist too, it's an absolutely fantastic band, and their music is great. It's very original too, and they are very underrated. And I'm talking about the Lord Weird Slough Feg, sometimes just known as Slough Feg. So the first one here is Twilight of the Idols, and here they go by the Lord Weird Slough Feg. And here we have Down Among the Dead Men, also the Lord Weird Slough Feg, and kind of disturbing cover art, but also kind of awesome. Very similar story here, disturbing but awesome cover art. Here we have Ape Uprising. Here they just go by Slough Feg, and kind of a shorter affair. Here we have Digital Resistance. Here they also just go by the name Slough Feg. And this one is Atavism, also just Slough Feg. And here New Organon or whatever. I think this is their most recent album. And now they're back to the Lord Weird Slough Feg. So one thing that I kind of appreciate about bands is, of course, when they reinvent themselves and try out new things. But I also like it when a band have found something that works for them and that they obviously enjoy playing, and they have a consistent style, and that's what characterizes Slough Feg. And I have to be honest, some of these are not first impressions. These 2 ones here I had heard before, but somehow they ended up in my first impressions inbox, so I just decided to include them. Now, this is traditional heavy metal with a strong influence from Celtic folk music and medieval folk music, but also just straight up melodic hard rock along the lines of 70s hard rock. But so kind of what ties it all together is just traditional heavy metal. There's so many great riffs on all of these albums. I really like the vocalist's voice. He has a very unique voice. I can only think of one other singer that sounds like him, and that's the guy from a Danish band called Kashmir. These are the 2 only singers that have that style of singing that I can think of. So it's, I think you could call this folk metal to some degree, but it's the kind of folk metal that I really enjoy. I'm not a big fan of folk metal where they include, like folk music instrumentation. Sometimes it works, I think, but I really like it when they include the scales and the melodies and the chord progressions and stylings of folk music. Like Iron Maiden do that very much on their kind of more recent releases, and this is kind of in that vein. Except there's a bit more energy to these guys' music, a bit more youthful energy, although they're getting up there age-wise too, I think. This is great stuff. The first album I heard by the Lord Weird Slough Feg was Animal Spirits, which is not in this stack here, but that's another great album. So yeah, if you like traditional heavy metal, if you like Thin Lizzy-esque things that pop up every now and then, if you like traditional heavy metal with lots of elements from Celtic folk music and medieval music, and also kind of a lot of narratives, and a lot of their albums are concept albums as well. If you like all that stuff, check out the Lord Weird Slough Feg. Any of these would be a great gateway into the weird and wonderful world of this band. The singer sounds a bit different on this one than on all the other ones, but it is the same guy. Still sounds good. So I can warmly recommend the Lord Weird Slough Feg. It's such an awesome band, and my kind of folk metal. Kind of like, Skyclad, their style of folk metal. There's also, they don't have that many folky instruments, but lots of folksy melodies. It's what you get with the Lord Weird Slough Feg as well. Great stuff. Just do yourself a favor, check them out. And up last, Solstice. And this band, I think this is their most recent album. It's a thrash metal band. They had some awesome classics back in the day, and then they released this one here. Those albums behind me are reissues, so you can actually pick them up if you want to, and I would strongly recommend it because it's awesome thrash metal. This one for certain, it's a thrash to piece. This one is a bit more 90s like, it's a bit more groove metal, but it's still great. And this is a more recent album by these guys, and this one is also fantastic. And this one here is actually very crossover thrashy, much more than I expected it to be. So I was a bit surprised that you have lots of hardcore punk stylings going on in terms of the riffage, and the vocals are also quite hardcore-y. You do have awesome thrash metal riffage as well, and it is perhaps straight up thrash metal with some crossover leanings. Maybe that's the best description, but more crossover than I expected. And if you do like thrash metal, check this one out too. This one is great, so I would recommend picking this one up and giving it a listen, but also the reissues back there. So yeah, lots of Slough Feg here. Fantastic band, check them out, I really mean it, they're great. Check out Solstice as well, fantastic thrash metal too, and Slammer, fantastic thrash metal as well. And the Sacrilege 1666, very enjoyable. If you like old school doom metal, give them a spin too. So yeah, I can recommend all of these. It was a great week of listening to new music and some music I already knew, but you can cheat every now and then. Thanks for watching.